All right, folks, here's the gear for today. We're going to keep going with the same brush and razor. Semogue Owners Club in the Taj handle. Stainless steel version of the timeless 68 gap open comb razor. Nacet blade in it. I think we're at use number 609 right now. The video title and details will show the exact count. I can't remember if I put a Sharpie dot on this card at the end of the last shave. I don't think I did. And then here in the jar, unlike the plastic tub that I've used the last couple of days, is Tabac. This is the box for the vegan version. This is the tub that has the tallow version in it. So, a lot of fun to be had. And this is one I haven't used in probably about 2 years would be my guess. And so it's shrunk a little bit. You can see the cracks, maybe. That's just what happens to hard soaps. Because, see, the tallow lid is actually geared to allow a little bit of ventilation. It doesn't make an exact seal. And I think that's on purpose so that you don't get standing water in there that just sits forever, right? And that would degrade the soap quality, the chemical composition of the soap. Mitchell's Wool Fat does that also with their ceramic containers. I may not love the Tabac scent enough to use it above so many of the other options out there. I think I've used this 3 or 4 times. But it's a good high quality soap, the tallow one, and I'm looking forward to using it today. So I used the vegan 2024 version of the Tabac last couple days, and now with austere August behind me, I have other soaps in other boxes, and some of that is organized. And some of it's not. And I thought, you know what? I'll bet if I just take a quick walk through the house, I will stumble upon a box of soap. And sure enough, I did. And what I was hoping was that it would have a good base for me to use. Because with this vegan tallow, I've ended up with just a little bit of irritation at the end of the shave. Not that lasted very long, but just a little bit at the end of the shave. And I was wondering, hey, is that the vegan version of the soap not protecting me as well as something else might? Or is it the blade that's just now aging to where that's a problem, you know? And what did I use? Oh yeah, I used Midnight Stag, of course, the chiseled face during the austere August. I don't think I ended up with that same irritation. So I have to think that it's not the blade and that it's just the vegan tallow. Could it possibly have an ingredient that I'm allergic to, mildly? I wouldn't think so. But, and I think I was reading an article or a little forum post that said that generally the addition of palm oil is not an irritant to very many people at all. And that's what they added to the vegan mix there. And so I was hoping that looking through the house, and I would stumble across a box or container of soap, or even just a couple of random soaps that were in a miscellaneous box of other things, you know, because I kept finding them in various places when I was moving. Well, it was very fortuitous. The first box I stumbled across, opened it up, and there were about 9 soaps in it, and not only was one of them Tabac, the original, so that I get to compare it with the vegan, but the other one of the other soaps in there was one from House of Mammoth. And so Santal Noir, a wonderful, wonderful sandalwood scent that I'm so glad he released. And that actually the one I specifically mentioned, the soap base I specifically mentioned last time, to say, hey, I know this Tusk soap base is amazing. It never treats me wrong. It protects me really well. And so if I shave with this base, then, and I get no irritation, then that tells me that this vegan base is not protecting me as well as it almost feels like it should be protecting me, because I didn't really have too much irritation during the shave. It would just slowly build up by the end. So it was really cool that that both of the things that I was, the kind of the best finding soap scenario, the best case was what I found. I found Tusk, and then I found the tallow version of Tabac to be able to compare them. So we will do that. I think I'll use Tabac first so that I can just do a direct compare with the feel of it, to compare it to the vegan version. So let's show you the razor. Gillette Nacet. And on the bottom of the pin there, on this side and this side, there's an N up there and then a 1 there. Harder to see when I do this, I think. But yeah, I did 11 shaves with it flipped on the other side. I figured out which shaves those were. And I have that information right here, I think. Yeah, on use number 597, I realized the error. And so shave 597 with the Nacet was with it the proper way. But 586 on the Nacet there, day 11 of austere August, was the first time I used it, likely with it on the wrong side. So I need to look at August 11, August 12, and those shaves, and see if I made any special remarks about the comfort of the blade. Was I surprised that it was shaving so well? That's very interesting to me. Because one time I switched it back, I can't remember when it was, but I accidentally flipped it one time, and I noticed a big difference. All right, razor is installed. What are we going to do today? Let's just do a standard bowl lather with the Tabac Tallow version. And as you saw, it is a dry puck that hasn't been used in a long time. Now, HD Shaves, a friend of mine, did a shave with Tabac recently, and he bloomed his because he had the same situation where it hadn't been used in a while, and so he put some water on the top of it. Sometimes with these hard soaps, I know that people with Mitchell's wool fat did something similar, where if they haven't used it in a while, they just put some water on it and cover it up, and then gradually the soap puck would expand and fill up the container, and then it wouldn't swirl around anymore. It wouldn't spin or anything like that. Now, this Tabac soap container has these ridges that you can see that I'm sure are to prevent that very thing from happening, if at all possible. And so I don't think I have to worry about that. But if you do have a hard soap that's cracked over use, it's because that water has evaporated. And so you can do a couple of different things. You can do what I'm going to do today, which is just start shaving with it. And with the water load that we're going to put on it, it'll gradually start gaining more moisture. Or you can just put some water on the top of it and let it sit for a while. I think these harder soaps were more tolerant with that. Whereas these crops like, the Barrister and Man and House of Mammoth here, Will at Barrister and Man said it's best not to bloom his soaps. And I think that probably applies to a lot of the crops out there. Blooming these guys, that's not really going to hurt the soap. But Will said it would mess up with the chemical makeup of his crope, for instance. And it's totally unneeded. You see how many crops I use, and even from a state of pretty dry, and there's just no need to bloom those. We call it blooming when we let water rest on the soap. Nick Shaves was an old school YouTube shaver who would bloom his soap. He was renowned for doing that as a general rule. But since HD Shave bloomed his, and he gathered up plenty of lather during his shave, more than he needed, I think is what he said. But I'm going to do the opposite this time. I'm not going to bloom it. We'll just see how it happens. I don't think it's going to be stubborn. I don't think it's going to give me any problem with stirring up a good lather. So let me get some water on my face. All right. So we're going to take this saturated brush. Like I said, Taj handle, Semogue Owners Club. And since the brush is the soap is so dry, not going to do too much shaking of the brush here. Well, although it's easy to overflow because there's not a lot of room to overflow, so let's give it a couple of shakes. So it is I'd say it's a medium wet brush at this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 20, 30, 40. Let's try 40 swirls. Didn't really stir up anything that overflowed the bowl. You can see some sudsing on the brush tips. Let's just see if that's going to be enough to work up a lather. I'm going to go ahead and pour a little bit of water in the bowl just to kind of get everything started. Because I know it's going to need that much anyway. And we'll see what we get. Bubbly at first, and now it's just kind of airy. Not quite as big bubbles. The bubbles are smaller now. What did I do? 30 or 40 swirls. And from what I can tell already, it looks like we're in good shape. A hard puck like Tabac, even though I bought it several years ago, it may lose its scent strength gradually over time. Like Williams and the Colgate pucks of decades ago will do that too. Looks even better now. But they haven't seen one that didn't perform any differently. Still perform really well. So the good thing about the curing of those hard pucks, the chemistry, they just don't lose that good lather making ability. Oh, and even now it's starting to get more firm. Look at that tip there. See, it's holding its own structure, holding itself up easily. You know, a little bit of wobble at the very end, but so that definitely wasn't too much water added right at the beginning. And as you can see, we've got a good bit of soap here, good bit of lather here. So that wasn't a light load. Matter of fact, I may need to add a little bit more water. Oh man, and see, I can feel the consistency as I'm pushing. I can feel that thick viscosity, that cushion. I can feel that when I'm pushing the brush into it. And I actually need to add more water. See, that is what a good soap base does. Yes. Yes. Oh. So I don't think it was necessary to bloom it. And if you do bloom it, there's just less swirling you need to do because you're going to pick up more soap off of that moistened surface. And it continues to look strong, and oh, look, that's just glorious. See, I see the sheen, and I see that it's not light and dry and with these micro bubbles in it. And so I'm filled with shaver's anticipation of it being a good lather. And this is what this base does that the chiseled face base doesn't, and what the vegan base doesn't do. They are both very serviceable. They will give you, I'd rate the chiseled face actually maybe a little bit better, because I think it ended up protecting me better than the Tabac vegan. See, look, we still I keep adding water. Look how it's supporting itself. Oh, and just the way this feels to my brush, the way its thickness is resisting my brush, it's like magic. It started out with me wondering if I had enough soap and if I was drowning it with too much water, and now this is the second time that I've added more water after the fact, and I could add more. See, look at that. Okay, let's do a pull-up test where I look how it's just sticking. It's this huge blob of soap that, unless I was going to shake it, wasn't going to come loose. Now, another viscosity test. And the best soaps, the best bases, at least the ones that are the best to me, they do this. They get to this point where they're so hydrated that it's just this wonderful creamy viscosity. But I take them farther than this, because look how it's supporting its own weight. It's not really collapsing into a blob. Soap bases like the vegan, if I ever got it to this point, I don't think I could, but I would, then I probably would stop, because it couldn't handle more water. It would look good, but it just wouldn't protect and be as slick. It would kind of start to break. See, look, we've got some structure here still. Oh man, Tabac is magic. And this, my friends, is why Tabac got that amazing reputation, and its grandma's purse scent was not enough to keep it down. It was not enough to make it lose share in the market for years. I mean, yeah, obviously it lost share when that type of scent wasn't as popular as it was, but this performance of this shave soap, and that is why it has such a status. I'm just going to add some more water. I'm just having fun. I may have loaded too much soap on the brush. That's nuts. Okay, oh yeah, there we go. You see that bottom part? You see the way it kind of collapsed down on itself? See, it's starting to change. It held that structure a minute ago. Now it's slowly moving more because of the weight of the water. See that blob come down? Those are things you can look for as you define what your own, you don't have to copy me. Find out what your own milestone is. What are the tests? Use these as tests to learn when to stop adding water for your own preferences. A little bit left on the brush, well, a medium amount. It still hangs on and then plops. There's that plop, and see he's gradually moving because of the weight of the water. Oh, and I thought I doubted it for a minute. I thought, did I load enough soap? Have I put in too much water? Initially, I was so wrong. Oh man, that's a thing of beauty right there. Okay, I'm gonna add even more water. This is some, and I'm about to add the entire jigger. I started with 40 milliliters, and that is how much water I have added into this bowl. Now let's get it. And here is where I will spend some time pressing the brush all the way down to make sure that the lather is able to circulate through the whole brush. More importantly, also to make sure that any remaining water in the brush is exposed to the soap and the lather so that it's not going to wash out my lather when I start to put it on my face and work my brush a little harder. So you work your brush in the bowl like you're going to on your face, and that makes sure that you don't get any surprises. And so for me, it is pretty clear to see the differences in the old tobacco, the tallow, and the vegan. The vegan is still a good base. But this is head and shoulder above it. This is legend. Ah, look at that. There we go. There we go. That's the viscosity that I want. And that, I mean, could even maybe use a little bit more water still, but I think I'm going to use that. And I think that's properly mixed now. Oh, see, when a soap gets on your brush and you mix it up and it makes you excited to use it, see, that's legendary status right there. Oh, yes. All right, splash some water on my face. And here we go. Didn't wash my face, and so it's gonna kind of disappear a little bit, and that's okay. Go back and get a little bit more. This is dying just a little bit. It's really hydrated. It's really wet. Maybe there was a little bit more water left in the brush that I wasn't able to get to. Let's feel the lather. Yeah, I put too much water in it. It looks glorious, but it does have a little too much water in it. The slickness, it doesn't have that oiliness that the palm oil vegan formula has. All right, let's see how everything goes. Wouldn't it be funny if it somehow did not perform right, you know? Sometimes we do build things up in our heads. Just like the vegan, I'm not going to worry about evaluating the slickness on the first pass, since the feel of the stubble is going to get in the way of that. And there we go. That was a messy lather. So I may not want to push it quite so hard next time. I just got so excited, right? In terms of adding water, you know. However, this is a good comparison because I had one of the lathers that I did with the, and I think it was the bowl lather that I did with the Tabac Vegan, that I was kind of like this. It kind of washed out a little bit, and this is being better in that scenario. And matter of fact, why don't I do the same thing I did with the vegan? I just went to the tub for a couple more swirls. Yeah, feels totally different now. Now, HD shaves, in his recent shave with Tabac, he likes his lather drier than mine, and that's a relative term. He puts that kind of dry paste concentrate on his face first because he's a face latherer, and then he adds water after that to bring up the moisture. And I think a lot of times that almost works like... it does start to add a gloss, you know, to your face, but it's still quite opaque, and it's much more opaque than mine because I've just got more water in my mix. And so I think maybe that there's a layer, and he does mostly painting strokes, and so I think he's got that layer of concentrate that's kind of on his face, and then he's working on those outer layers, hydrating those, and that makes him happy. Go for it. But as for me, I don't really want that concentrate to be so much on my face. All right, so third pass. Will be a, oh, now see, that just glides. That is more that kind of pure slickness aspect of these soaps that were not as concerned with skincare, because I think maybe the society back then was not as concerned with men's skincare, but even now, you know, what you can do is I would let the skincare responsibilities be not the responsibility of the soap to try to give me, but to let the balm, a lotion or a balm used afterwards, be what does that. Now, got a friend, maybe I think it's Old Hiker, who his skin has such a dryness problem that he has to have a soap. He can't do this with any kind of drying soap. Just having a good balm or lotion after the fact is not enough. He needs to have the soap to have moisturizing abilities as well. And then he also has a really good high quality balm. I think, you know, something like CeraVe, or he may be the one that uses actually oil of Olay something. Olay, you know, post not post-shave cream or something, but just a lotion, a face lotion. And that treats his skin right. And that's an extreme case where if you have really dry skin, you might have to do something like that. All right, well, there we go. Let's give this a rinse. All right. We're going to do one more pass because recently I did 4 passes, I think, maybe even 5. And so I wouldn't want to compare the irritation on my face unless I did it more fairly. And let's go back just a couple swirls on this soap. Because right now, no irritation. I'm going to put a little bit of water on the brush since I went back to the tub. So that was a light load of soap. I did end up with a big old bowl full of lather, but it was too hydrated. You saw how that behaved. It's possible if I would have maybe kept mixing, if it would have settled down a little bit perhaps, but I didn't want to spend that much time. And I have definitely had that happen a good many times before, where you'll get this big old load of lather. And yeah, the oil's on my face because I don't do a pre-wash. That does kill lather in the beginning, but I think it's more than that. It was just, while it looked great in the bowl, and viscosity-wise, I was showing you those tests. And so it looks like, for me at least, with the old school Tabac, with the tallow, that those tests, I need to stop a little bit beforehand. I need to, when that blob goes down and hits the thing and doesn't change structure, don't push it farther to where it's all bloopy, you know. Now, some soaps are even better than this, where they can be a sea of marshmallow cream, and they will still be amazing. They won't die like this did. All right, so here we go. Oh, yeah. And I'm using both sides of my razor always. I do notice when I'm using the side that has the bend in the blade. It does feel less smooth. And I can tell the difference, but I keep using it anyway. I'm really curious. I'm sure Greg will, and I just thought about this just now. We're talking years of talking about sending it to Greg, looking at the microscope and all that, but make sure Greg looks at that bendy part, at the edge condition of that bend, to see if it differs very much from the rest of the blade. Has it worn down more, less, you know, that sort of thing. All right, well, and still, no irritation. No irritation. So that is not the blade. The irritation I was getting the last couple days, it's not the blade. Because I've got nothing now. 4 passes, and even that last pass was a little bit skimpy, you know. And so if something like the Great Tabac was going to bother me, that's the time for it to bother me, and it didn't. So, of course, it's possible for the vegan formulation to have some type of thing that I'm allergic to, or that just causes me skin irritation, but that's usually not how it goes. All right, I'm going to vent the razor and give it a good rinse and shake. that amount of loading, that 30 or 40 swirls, that was kind of bare minimum. I did go back for maybe a total of 7 more swirls, maybe 3 or 4 one time and then 3 the next time. So that's the amount of, and that still is not very much activity to wake up a dry puck. So you don't need to bloom even the hard puck. You know, for years I would say, I don't bloom the cropes after hearing from some of the makers. But I do bloom hard pucks. And you can, I think that's a fair rule, but you also don't need to bloom the hard pucks either, as you can see today. If maybe add 10 to whatever I loaded, so 40 or 50 swirls would probably given me the right amount of lather. And I mean, that is just unnecessary if you want. Now, if you do, when you do use this over and over, then that puck's going to swell and fill up the chamber there. And then it's going to keep giving you more soap as you keep imparting more water to it. And so obviously that swirl count is going to decline. Not need to be quite that bad. Now, especially in this case, when I've got some moisture here on the soap, I don't have a problem capping it up pretty soon. I always cap up my soap after the shave anyway, but I could have capped that up immediately, knowing that that nice hard puck would just suck in any of that extra moisture on top of the soap. So very nice, very nice. Aftershave, yeah, still no irritation at all. We're good. We are good. I still haven't looked through to find my after. The problem is I've seen soap boxes, I've seen aftershave boxes, and I kind of know where they are, but I need to dedicate some time to going and getting them. So let's just keep using this musk. You know what? No, let's switch. This, I told you last time that what I was thinking of, so I'm not going to bother with telling you again. Let's use the Irish Moos. I was going to save it for the Irisch Moos from Sterling, but hey, let's have something different today. It's still very old school. Oops. And this is an alcohol splash. No stinging. See, that is just even more of a telltale sign that it's not the blade. The blade is fine. It's the soap. So tomorrow, will I move on to the tusk to compare it to the vegan, or will I go back to the vegan Tabac to see if it goes back to giving me a little bit of irritation? If it does, then I can feel very confident that the soap, either it has an ingredient that irritates my skin, or it's just not as protective. I was experiencing good glide. The razor was moving easily. It wasn't quite as effortless as this tallow version. However, it just because it moves easily doesn't mean it's not protecting properly, and it seems like it's not, which is fascinating. Not something I've come across before. All right. Whew. The scent on the Irish Moos aftershave, not jumping out at me strong at first. Maybe because of the Tabac. My nose was already used to the Tabac. But now that kind of fresh greenness it's building. I think my nose is starting to get it. All right, well, there we go. Who knows? Maybe just one more shave with the Nacet. I get that's right, because today could be the 609th. And I think it's about time to get Mr. Greg's address to send this blade to him. How about that? I'm glad I did this test, because if I had sent the blade off, I wouldn't have been able to know if it was the blade or not that was causing the irritation. And now I know it's not the blade. Well, Been fun experimenting with you guys. We'll keep doing it. And there will always, it seems like there will always be something fun to experiment about. And I'm glad you guys are along with me on this ride. It's a lot of fun. So thank you so much for watching. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Good night.